Hello, everyone. Today I'll be talking about Francis Bacon, his life, contributions, and legacy. Bacon was an important person who helped change how people think, moving from the old ideas into new or more modern ones. So Francis Bacon lived from 1561 to 1626. He was a philosopher, scientist, and writer. Even though he lived in the time of Queen Elizabeth, he saw himself as someone who would start a new era focused on science and learning. So let's talk about his early life and career. Bacon was born into a wealthy family, which gave him a good start in life. He went to Cambridge University and then joined the parliament in 1584. He worked for Queen Elizabeth I and later became a very successful under King James I. Eventually, he became a Lord Chancellor, which was a very high position in the government. Now, let's talk about his downfall and later years. Despite Bacon's success, his career took a bad turn in 1621. When he was accused of taking bribes, he admitted to it, but said the bribes didn't affect his decisions. He was fined, spent a short time in jail, and then retired. After that, he focused on writing and doing scientific experiments. So Bacon's contribution in science was his method of thinking. He believed that you should observe and study facts first before making conclusions, which was different from the old way of thinking. This approach became the foundation of the modern scientific methods. Now let's go to Bacon's contribution to English literature. Bacon was also an important writer in 1597. He published essays, becoming the first person in England to write in this style. His essays talk about many topics like studying, traveling, and marriage. Even though his writing can be a bit hard to understand because it's influenced by Latin, his ideas are still useful until today. His essays help shape how people write in English up to this day. Now, his legacy. Bacon left a lasting legacy. He helped create the way we do science today and influence English writing. Even though he had some troubles in life, many people admired him. For example, the poet Alexander the Pope called him the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. And playwright Ben Jonson described him as one of the greatest men of his time. So, therefore, I conclude that Francis Bacon's ideas and writings have had a big impact on both science and literature. Understanding his work helps us see how modern ways of thinking started. Now, let's move into another topic discussing the King James Bible, discovering its history, significance, and lasting impact. So, the creation of King James Bible. In 1604, King James I asked 54 scholars to create a new English translation of the Bible. They compared different translations with the original Greek, Hebrew, and Latin text. After 7 years of work, the King James Bible was completed in 1611. So early English translations in Tyndale. Before the King James Bible, the Bible mostly in Latin, making it hard for people to read. John Wycliffe made the first full English translation in 1382. Later, William Tyndale printed the New Testament in English in 1525. Unfortunately, he was executed for his efforts. Let's talk about its significance and impact. The King James Bible was the first English Bible authorized by the church and widely accepted by the people. It made the Bible accessible to everyone and has greatly influenced English and American literature with its beautiful and powerful language. The King James Bible made the scriptures accessible to English speaker and has had a lasting impact on our language and literature. So now let's read Psalm 8 from the King James Version of the Bible, and later we will examine it verse by verse. Okay, let's start. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. Out the mouths of babies and sucklings dost thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightiest still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beast of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. So now let's examine Psalm 8 verse by verse. So in verse 1, the psalm begins by declaring God's greatness. His name is praised throughout the earth, and his glory is higher than the heavens. Next is the verse 2 that out of the mouths of babies and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightest steal the enemy and the avenger. It is said that even the weakest, like children, reveal God's strength. This shows that God's power is not limited by human standards. Next is in verse 3 and 4, the psalmist marvels at the vastness of the heavens, then wonders why God would care for humans. This contrast highlights both God's greatness and his love for us. So in verse 5, for thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Humans are given a high place in creation, just below the angels. We are honored and crowned with glory by God. In verse 6, thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet. God gives humans authority over all creation. This responsibility is a reflection of the honor that God has placed on us. In verse 7 and 8, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the seas. Our dominion includes all animals, those on land, and the air, and in the sea. This reinforces the idea of human responsibility over God's creation. So in verse 9, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. This psalm ends where it begins, praising God's name as excellent throughout the earth. And this brings the focus back to God's majesty and his beautiful creation. In conclusion, Psalm 8 reminds us of the greatness of God and the special place he has given to humanity. We are called to recognize his glory and fulfill our role as the people or the stewards of his creation. And the main theme of Psalm 8 is God's greatness and the importance of human and his creation. It talks about how big and powerful God is and how amazing it is that he cares for his people. Even though the universe is so vast, and God gives human a special role to take care of everything he has made. And that's it. That's my report. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye.